Hey everyone, welcome to a new episode of the Lebenspraxis podcast. I didn't upload any episode in a while. I didn't produce any new episodes. I still think it's a very, very good format, this podcasts. Yeah, I like to listen with your headphones on and while you can, walk somewhere or wash the dishes. I think it's great. So I want to continue with it. And if there are times where I don't do it for a while, that doesn't mean I abandoned the project, but I put my focus somewhere else. And that's always the thing, like there is so many things to do and I can only do so many things at the same time. Now it's already August, but I started this year with a lot of contemplation, and this contemplation actually went on for like several months. So in this months, the main focus was just to figure out what is my next step with my work. And the way for me to figure that out is to spend a lot of time doing nothing, just sitting and lying around. Basically, all the other time that I spend working, I spend with my active students. So that's why I didn't produce any content, I didn't do any marketing, I didn't make stories, I didn't write, whatever. And I generally also didn't have so much time because family life was very busy. But the nice thing is that it worked. Like this approach of spending enough time doing nothing and letting the thoughts arise and letting things in my mind like come together, that really worked well. And from there, if you already looked into the new things that I wrote, you notice that now I'm talking a lot about self-discovery. I was talking about self-development before. I still use this term also. So I use these two terms, self-discovery and self-development, but I'm doing it much more actively now. I think every one of you is aware of the movement part of my work. But for me, always the main part of it was the development of the self. So I realized that there's now the time for me to really go much more straightforward with talking about it, because before I didn't talk about it so much. And what is important for me is to talk about that self-development is happening basically in everything that you do if you invite it into your life. So what I realized then is how actually important it is to talk about perception, and that we're aware of our perception and the idea that perception can be refined. So that means if you're actively perceiving, meaning you're present with the things around you, then your perception will refine through time. So as an example, the sommelier, the guy that is drinking wine and like tasting wine. So this person developed a very good perception about wine. Yeah. So obviously you can train that. You can get more refined, and you can do this in all sorts of things. You can do this internally into what is going on in yourself, like with your emotions, with bodily sensations, with like all of this that in language we always separate to make it easier to talk about it. But in the end is, of course, there's always like this comes together, and somehow we need to separate in order to set up structures and to create exercises and to see, at which point there might be problems to work on and so on and so forth. But in the end is always so like interconnected. I think in a way that we don't even understand. I think that's the reality of it. Like we don't even understand how connected, how everything is not even connected. It's like one thing. So I came up with this framework, which is called PER framework: perception, expression, and relaxation. And this is the base structure of my teaching. Not always I use it, but actually most of the time it's there. It is kind of hierarchy, yeah, that you could say start with perception, go into expression, and from there into relaxation. But it's not a fixed order. It can be turned around. So perception, I already explained what it's about. Expression has 4 pillars. So the pillars are mental and physical training. So there's the movement world, there's the meditation world, and so on. Then arts, with all its different endeavors, all its different ways to create art. Crafting, very similar to art in one way, but also very different. And here thinking about all the different crafts that are there. And interaction, communication. So interaction with other people, but actually also with yourself, or plants and animals as well, like any living being. So I would categorize it like this. These are the 4 pillars. These are the ways that we are expressing ourselves. And in that sense, we express ourselves very often through creation. And you could say there's always creation. Like if I talk with someone, we are creating a conversation, a moment where we converse with each other. And I like that very much, like to open several doors there, like one door that you open is that things can change you. Things are allowed to change you. And I use here the word acts. I will talk about it in a moment. So things are allowed to change you. Another thing that you open, and another door is the door of perception, the realization that perception can be refined. And another door is the door of creation. We are creators. We are creating all the time, every day. We are creating our thoughts. You could say, you could also say that thoughts are just coming in and we are just observing them. But somehow, somewhere they are created. Maybe not consciously, or they are happening. Whatever. Like it doesn't matter for me if it's like neuroscientifically or whatever, or biologically, what happens exactly in that sense, because at the moment, what I'm talking about is a very poetic layer, it's a very artistic layer of like thinking there's so much creation coming out of you, out of your mind. Like I said, there's movements, there's like thoughts. You're in this world and you're having a lot of effect. You're having a lot of effect about what is surrounding you. There's a lot of reciprocity, like things have an effect on you and you have an effect on things. And again, like it's all connected. And we can act very consciously in the world and also in the way that we allow change. And this is, like I said, I would use the word acts for that. An act, an act of self-discovery. And such acts can be kind of small, like, that there's a small change. For example, you do a set of push-ups or you talk with a person. But all these things are like changing you. It's changing your path. You made a decision. Like anything that you do, like because there's no path like this, I use this word path also, but only as an image that there is some sort of a structure, or that it actually also makes a lot of sense to create a structure. But there's no linearity of what's happening. It's like a 3-dimensional something space. So all the time there's the reciprocity. There's the things coming in and the things coming out of you. And from there things develop. But with the idea of the act is like, okay, I make a choice and it doesn't mean there is a clear change. I know what the change is. I cannot know. There's always a little bit of chaos. Sometimes more, sometimes there's less. Yeah, like there's some things that are more predictable and so on. But I don't know, like if I do a set of push-ups, what happens exactly with me? What happens with my mood? What happens with how I feel? Like what happens biologically in me and so on. But I will, if I do a set of push-ups, there will be something happening. There will be a change. And if I do every day a few sets of push-ups, there will be a bigger change and so on. Yeah, so I can have bigger or smaller effects. I can have very strong effects on something I do one time, like a one-time act. Let's say I go on Mount Everest. Yeah, like very strong example in a sense. Like it's very likely if you go on Mount Everest, not so many people are doing it, that there will be a change of you. And other things are continuous practice, like the continuous practice of movement or the continuous practice of how well you're communicating with other people, or your skill of being a painter or whatever. But in that sense, the idea is to bring consciousness and also imagination. And I think imagination is one very, very strong thing that we also have. And this morning I woke up, and after waking up, I didn't directly get out of bed. I just woke up, and then I felt like, I want to think about it. I want to just reflect for a moment. What is getting me out of bed now? Like, why do I get out of bed? I didn't want to get out of bed, as a habit, just because you get out of bed after you're waking up. So I took my time and I realized, what is really getting me out of bed, like in a nice way, is the imagination. It's the imagination of, what can I do today? How can I create again? How can I create my day? Also, through my imagination, I can create my day. So I don't want to get out of bed out of fear or something like this, or out of needs, you could say. I mean, you could say it's also a need, like to create, obviously. But you know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm hungry or something like that. But I want this beautiful energy. I really like that. And I think it can be a nice act, like to do, like you wake up and then you wait. You wait for a moment and you wait for something to really arise in yourself, like a certain energy where you feel like, now I want to get up. Like there's not this drudgery, this like, it's still the morning and I'm still tired. And no, there's like, thank you, I'm alive. Thank you very much. I'm getting out of bed and like seeing what is the adventure, and that adventure is today. That's the adventure. That's the adventure that I'm going on. I'm going on today. And one big reason why I want to talk so much more about this, like this discovery of the self, is because I have the feeling it's not such a big priority in our society. You know, like one big priority is to stay safe. And that makes a lot of sense, no? Like you want to stay safe. Like, so it's about like getting proper education and getting proper jobs so that you can then continue your life. You can pay your rent and buy your food and so on. And of course, nowadays there's a certain look on the luxuries. So we are looking at like the possibility to do vacation and the possibility to buy a car and so on and so forth. And these are all very nice things. I really like vacations and I also like to have a car. So that's wonderful. But in the end, it's of course like, so that's not really it in the end, no? Like you get a good education, then you get a job to be able to like afford this lifestyle that the society has like created, because it's very not super fixed in a way that there's not a myriad of options, but there is a certain frame that we're acting in our society. And if you think, for example, about school education, there's not much about like finding your inner calling or something like this. And this is even also disregarded by many, like, it's like, don't really follow your calling, because it's very unlikely that it will be financially sustainable. And I think that's very true. You have to kind of balance this and manage this and find your way. But you have to find your way, I think. That's my opinion. Because if you don't find it, someone else will put it on you, you know? Like someone else will just create your life for you. And that's not a person, like one person. That's just the society that it's pushing you in one direction. You're finished with school and then you go to the German, we say job center. Yeah, you go there, you ask, what can I do? Then they give you a list of what you can do, and you go there and you decide, okay, now I'm going this and blah, blah, blah. And you end up somewhere. 50 years later, you look back and you realize, okay, yeah, this just happened to me. It's a way. You can do it. It's not really my way. And I think it's also not the way of people that are listening here very often. But it's not a judging thing, you know. For me, it's like, it's your way, like of someone else that is doing this. But I have these needs. I have these needs to go and to create and to see and to find and to perceive. Like I don't like the shallow, and I'm very interested. And I think many of you are so similar. There are lots of different characters. Yeah, some of you are very open to all sorts of experience, and some of you are more looking at certain experience and so on. Doesn't matter. But all of you are looking, like all of you that are listening to this are looking for, there's a bit more than the usual thing. There's the world of the unusual, and this world is very, very interesting. So let's discover ourselves, lifelong adventure. And to support people with that, in my teaching, I'm using this PER framework. So that's one of my newer developments, to really be able to say, we're not doing wishy-washy here. It never was. I always was about creating structures, but there's a newer addition to the structure, the structures of structures, and I'm very happy with this. The PER framework, perception, expression, relaxation. I didn't talk about the relaxation. I forgot about this. Doesn't matter. Maybe you hear about it in the next episode, or maybe at another point. Let's see. All right, guys, continue.